Okay, can you hear us?
I can hear you now. Can you hear me?
Yep. Okay.
All right.
Good.
A call to order this February 8th meeting of the Commercial Business Subcommittee or Commercial Business District Subcommittee. Roll call.
Okay, so we have in the room, let's point out we have Ecola Collier, Marcia Patrick, Leslie Martin, Walter Martin, and online we have Councilmember Rojas. And for staff, we have City Manager Gagel and myself, Clerk Diamond.
We will continue on with our discussion we were having about the table, right? That's where we were. And we were on to, what were we on to?
Where did we leave off?
We were a business. We were going to talk about the topic of having a business and being in business, right?
Yeah.
The definitions and how you were understood. Do we have those definitions somewhere?
Yes. So Madam Chair, if you look in your packet and I just want to point out at the top, I did make a note or in conjunction with Clerk Diamond that motel, hotel, bed and breakfast, accessory use or structure, home occupation, and marijuana uses were not included in this list of definitions. Since we talked about nightly rentals and accessory use at the last meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And then marijuana uses are regulated separately. We also made a note that the commercial business definition, occupancy, short and long-term rentals and residential categories are included in this packet, but just for reference. If you guys want to discuss them, we can, but the intent of this meeting was to dive into what it means to be in business, what a business is, and then like we did at the last meeting where we combined and simplified some of our nightly rental definitions and our dwelling or residential definitions. Hoping we can do a similar deep dive tonight and kind of evaluate all of the different uses we have that are a business type use and whether they need to remain separate or if they can be in a lump category as just an overall being in business. So with that, if you see that page 4, you'll see that we have business, and I made a note that below it that we do have a definition for commercial use, but not for business. The definition for commercial use in Seldovia Municipal Code is an occupation, employment, or enterprise that is carried on for profit by the owner, leasee, or licensee. And then we have from Clerk Diamond, or maybe this one was from Ecola, I'm sorry. Nope, I would have said it if it is. Per Alaska statute, business means a for-profit or nonprofit entity engaging or offering to engage in a trade, a service, a profession, or an activity with the goal of receiving a financial benefit in exchange for the provision of services or goods or other property. From the IRS.gov provided by Ecola Collier, we have the term trade or business generally includes any activity carried on for the production of income from selling goods or performing services. And then an unknown source, the simple definition of business is explained as an organization that provides goods and services to the community in exchange for money with the goal of becoming profitable. So I think we want to define what a business is, and then the the underlying theme below that, if I'm understanding right, will be then what is that mean to be in business or operating a business? And per Anchorage Municipal Code, we have engage in the business means to operate or conduct the designated business as owner of the business or as an owner to employ, induce, or otherwise procure another person to operate or conduct the business. That is a mouthful. I do not know. We may have to research some better ideas, or if anybody has brought any with, happy to hear it. But if you guys want to start there and just talk about what it means to be a business and then what it means to be in business. I know that I've heard from community members and the mayor and some of the subcommittee members that, it might be nice to, in the discussion of what in business is what, what does that mean for Sildovia? What is that, are there guidelines for that? Are there expectations? So I'll leave it open for you guys.
Great. Any discussion on what it means to, excuse me, what business means for Sildovia, I guess, is how we want to pursue that topic.
In this new one packet, is that business district, is that what it is now?
Yes, correct.
That's
In
what
the,
we have
yeah,
now?
So we've just talked about changing the name and the purpose for that as well. But I think tonight we were talking about, I mean, we can go back to that if you guys want, but really what that means to be in business.
I don't think we want to use this one. I don't think we'll use the Anchorage Municipal Code. It's just a roundabout,
They just add an
That
extra
doesn't-
words.
yeah, and go back to the same words. Mhm.
That's some lawyer talk.
Do you, Nicola, do you want to look up, you seem to be good at looking up any in business or
I
on your,
tried. So I did do some digging on what it means to be in business, and I couldn't find anyone defining that terminology. Because you could be providing a business and be open full time and be losing money. You could have a very small, open, not very often, and still have a large income. So I don't know how we want to define it for the city of Sildovia. I would love for our commercial business district to have flourishing businesses that could operate year round. We can't force people to be open year round. We have wonderful businesses that are open just in the summer. I don't know how we define that, being in business. Like, is it X amount of months a year? Is it if you only make a profit? Is it if you're open so many hours a day?
You can run an unprofitable business.
You can.
You can have I guess my question for clarification was, do we want nonprofits to be considered in this business definition or
it
not?
sounded like,
I mean,
was it, there
being
was
in
one
business is the
definition
goal
that
of
sounded like,
making money.
yeah, it says business means a for-profit or nonprofit entity engaging or offering to engage in a trade.
Yeah.
So it does here in this one for,
Yeah, and that,
Alaska statute.
yes, and that one it does. I think in one of the other ones it meant it
so I mean,
mention it. So I guess that was a somewhat of a
for
point that I wanted to
Sildovia, do we
clarify.
want to, is that what you're asking, if we want to include that for Sildovia?
Yeah,
I think we should. I mean, and I think if somebody opened up a nonprofit and it was a part of the community and everybody benefited from it, who cares if it's a nonprofit? It's adding to, the atmosphere and all that kind of stuff. I think it should be included in the description of what business means.
Where would it fall on the land use table? Would it depend on what the nonprofit is?
Well, I think that's the discussion, right? Is it just is business? I mean, and that's what it's a business, so then it's permitted and does it need to be more further defined? And maybe it would be helpful to go through some of these different types of businesses. And perform that exercise of, does that meet the definition of in business, and is it acceptable across the district?
So the city. The city's a nonprofit, sort of. I mean, they're not out to. You're not, but you have.
Are you
there are
classified as a
spaces
nonprofit?
down
They're a
Or
government, government entity.
in this building that are kind of, you're offering space for businesses. So you're kind of supporting the whole business district and those little shacks in the parking lot. So that's kind of an example of maybe a not-for-profit entity that's in business.
Vivian, did you have something to
Helping
add?
business?
Yeah, I just have I don't want to interrupt. I just wanted to comment.
Go ahead.
Yep. So if we're at the bottom of page 4 and we're trying to come up with a definition of business, is that what I'm hearing? I think the idea of putting for-profit or nonprofit entity is equally as important in our business district. We could have somebody who's providing a service, but it happens to be nonprofit. I think that's this definition that you all came up with, or that's already in the Alaska statutes, is, I think, pretty well-rounded, and we should work off of what we have written down. I wasn't at the last meeting, so I'm not really sure where we are. But if we're trying to come up with a definition of business, I think what we have in that box right now, without them going around and around and around, does take into consideration what we're talking about. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, because I did miss a meeting. But what is wrong with what's written there right now and business definition?
No, I think it's a really well worded definition that's, it's pretty broad so that it can encompass a lot. I don't think it encompasses too much, but yeah, I agree with you, Vivian, that it's pretty nice the way it's written already.
Yeah, if we all agree on that, then maybe we can move to the next step, which is, I'm guessing it's what is a business? What is being in business? Is
Yes.
that kind of
Yeah.
big question?
Yes.
So is there a consensus in the group to adopt that term business that's in the box there to the right on bottom of page 4?
I am good with that definition.
I am also, after reading through it again, it seems to, I mean, as far as defining what the goal of business is, to be receive a financial benefit. It doesn't say that it's making money or losing money. It's a financial benefit. So.
Yep, I'm in favor of it.
Anybody against it? Okay.
So on to the next, to being in business. Maybe it's being actively engaged in your business.
Yeah, because I mean, that's kind of what the Anchorage Municipal Code says.
My understanding was our hesitation with allowing certain businesses in the commercial business district, someone to own a property and say that they're in business, but not actually operating their business, but being able to live in their home in the commercial business district. And what that looks like without actively being in business, but still meeting the standards of, well, I have this business. That means I meet that first requirement so I can live here full time as a second requirement. Am I understanding that right? Like as it pertains to our subcommittee, the
Right.
commercial business district?
Yeah, so the intent or the purpose of the district is to support business, to support commerce, right? So how do you put that, how do you define that to the population and people that are participating in that district, or coming into the district, that you know, what does that look like to be in business?
Sure.
What does that mean?
Yeah.
So we
I
have all of these definitions and, you know, that seems to be a pretty common way for communities to do it. But that was something that Don brought up was that Sildovia can do it differently, you know, we can make this work for our community. And is there a way to combine what all these different business types are and just have an overall, this is what it means to be in business. And if you're meeting that
Right.
definition, you know, then you're.
Sure.
Vivian, did you have something to add?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, earlier when Nicola was speaking, she hit the nail on the head, and that's really what the whole objective of this process is about, is defining what is being in business and operating a business. And what Seldovia needs and wants is for businesses to flourish, of course, with the support of the city, how we can help, and also the community. And so what does it mean to be a business? And what we're trying to eliminate is the fact that people are not necessarily being in business, but they're perhaps just living in an area, but not fulfilling what their contract basically gives with the city and buying the property, that you need to have a business. So how do we write something that encourages that without, I think everybody needs to know that if you buy parcels in this area, that you're buying not only the parcel, you're buying to create a business to support the community, to support yourself, to make enjoyable decisions for yourselves and for the community. So how do we write it? I think Anchorage's municipal code has a beginning for us. It's we can retwist and word it a little bit, but I think we need to make it solidly clear that what we expect with a business, with a person to own and operate and be in business is just that they are there for in business. And we do have something on the books right now where we understand that most people cannot be in business over beyond the 4 months of the year. The summer, the city understands that. Most people understand that. And those that can stay open longer, then more power to you, and we really appreciate it. And maybe there's more businesses that could find a little niche to stay open longer. But I think, as Nicola expressed, I can't remember her exact words, but that's what our defining definition needs to be, that people are buying to put a business in effect and run a business to support Seldovia. So I think we just need to, if I'm right, reword what we've got as from this municipal code, if everybody finds something in that agreeable, or just coming up with words that express what we're all saying, which I think is the same. I think we're all saying the same thing. Thank you. That's it.
So in doing a little Google search, and nothing is perfect, but one thing that struck my mind is when I think it was Nicola said being actively engaged in your business. And I looked up what's in business, and it's not very applicable, but I liked that idea of what does it mean to be actively engaged in your business? And maybe that's a better term to have an active business. And there's a lot of things on here being like, you know, they're hands-on, they have day-to-day activities, they have expenses. Let me see, where is it? You know, they have so many hours that they operate through the year. This one says through LinkedIn, it says 20 hours of work done for each week that a business was open in a year. I don't know if we need to go that in depth, but that's their term for active in the business. And then if you look down as I'm scrolling through, sorry, it's not shared online. It's for an active LLC, it has income and expenses for the year. I don't know if that's helpful to, you know, we could do it broad as being active in business, and then
How's that gonna affect the seasonal businesses? Are we causing a lot of conflict?
I don't think so.
Because there's gonna be part of the year they're not gonna be active.
So
But, in some ways they are, because during the rest of the year, even when they've closed their doors, they're looking towards the next year, which they might be doing networking, finding what they could do, ordering. So they are engaging within the prosperity of their business for the future, preparing for the next season, which is legitimate to me.
Being someone who is self-employed, and I've mainly been self-employed most of my adult life. I am a seasonal worker, or I had been solely a seasonal worker up until this last year, but I don't know. But my main income has always been in the summer. And I was definitely still in business. And there are things that would happen throughout the year, but I did get many months off where I wasn't actively working. I think that it might be helpful to maybe include something in our definition of whether you're filing with taxes for your business. Like because most business owners have to file. I mean, I don't know what other business owners file, X, Y, and Z. Like I have to do 1099s and 1096. And I don't know if we can include that in this, because whether you have a profit or not, if you have profits or losses, you still have to file those things with the IRS. And that's being actively in business.
Right?
But are you gonna police that?
No, but you could just say that as they're having income and expenses, because even if you're a not-for-profit or a nonprofit, you still have
Like
income.
even nonprofits have to file.
Yeah.
Something. They have a sheet.
I just feel like if you're gonna say something like that, that you're gonna put yourself in the position of policing it.
Yeah.
In the position of having to verify it.
Right, yeah, you're gonna be, there's somebody living down the road in their house, or, in their business or whatever, and they're, that they're not conducting business, and so then you're gonna be like, okay, so now I need to see your taxes. I mean,
What, I think that was another one of the issues is, well, once we have this definition, how do you enforce that? What does that look like?
Mhm. That's why I don't think it's a good idea to put those kinds of words in the definition, because you don't want to have to put the city in the position of having to police something, of having to go to somebody and say, prove it.
Don't they potentially have to do that anyway?
I don't-
Regardless of what the jargon is, if someone is
Well, yeah, but I mean,
not following their code, then that's up to the city to
Right.
deal with. As individuals that live in the business district, what is a definition or a way that we could make this work? I don't know, make it work for you.
I guess what I was trying to say is maybe we should make that word seasonal in there also, because say Leslie's renting 3 rooms. And then November, she takes off and she doesn't come back to March. Do we say she's breaking the law for 3 or 4 months? Or do we say, hey, some of these business we understand may be seasonal?
I think a lot of the businesses in town are seasonal.
Yeah.
And it's just,
It doesn't say that, and it says that when you say active, that means, hey, how can you be active? You're in New Mexico,
Right.
so it seems to me like maybe we should mention the word that seasonal, so that these people are protected. And, someone comes along and say, hey, I read the code differently. You're not active. Why not? It's winter time. I'm not here, we have a-
Allison had a comment.
Well, I kind of agree with what Vivian said about the 4 months minimum, and if,
and I didn't hear
because-
any of that, so.
Oh, okay. So that kind of gets at the seasonality, and there could be a business operating in the winter. There are, people that really are crazy about skiing here, so that way you can have your 4 months, whenever, but shoot for that minimum. And the 20 hours per week during when you say you're open would be another good standard. Policing that, again, is gonna be like everything else in the city that needs to be policed is not really done like other big cities, it's just something that has to be sort of be known when you buy the parcel, and then people live up to that.
So am I getting this right? That then we would have on the land use table, we would just have commercial business district, business permitted, and then provide examples of what those are, with the stipulation that those businesses are permitted, but they have to be active or in business. I guess I'm trying to wrap my head around why we need both definitions.
I don't know.
I wish Dawn was here. Sorry, guys.
I know. She said that she had some definitions for being in business.
Did she send you anything?
Yeah, I was just looking at it. So if we want, we can keep working on that and we can go down the list of just figure out, what is being a business in the first place. And if maybe some of these definitions that are business type activities can be combined into just an overall, yeah, they're in business, they're operating, or if they need to remain separate. So, and thinking about this, whether, yeah, that business would be applicable in the commercial business district or not. Because if you start lumping it all together, then you're saying it's all applicable. The first being business consumer services, the provision of services to others on a fee or contract basis, such as but not limited to advertising and mailing, building maintenance, employment services, management and consulting services, protective services, equipment rental and leasing, commercial research, development and testing, photo finishing, and personal supply services. So if you're operating any of those, are you a business? It's applicable.
Say yes.
Yes.
Question.
Yes.
Yeah, I would say, yes, there's a definition of a business, consumer services that incorporates everything that's listed. So yes, that would be a business potential.
So that makes it says on a fee.
But you have equipment rental and leasing, and I think that there was something for equipment in the land use table that was not permitted in this district. And I
But
guess
we-
it
I
would
mean-
depend on what you mean by equipment rental, like what is your definition of equipment? Otherwise, I think yes.
I mean, the fuel station used to rent, they had a backhoe and then it was available for rent.
Are you in the commercial business district?
Actually, no, we're not.
Industrial.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is permitted there.
And if we remember, part of the question in our what's allowed and what's not allowed, and there's a conditional, that's where the question comes up and can be determined. If, like right now, we're having a question about equipment rental. I was thinking more office equipment rental, not necessarily big, large equipment. So that question comes in, if someone comes in with a proposal and they're wondering if what they're proposing is going to fly, then it may be in the conditional. And it needs to be decided at the city office what is and isn't allowable, or what could be. We do have that option.
Or you could put in front of equipment rental, you could just say office equipment rental.
Well, is equipment rental not, is it conditional? What was the?
Just. I didn't see where I had that. But
We have to type over
equipment
here.
sales, repair and service is not permitted. I don't remember where the rental part was.
Which is up. Marine equipment.
But a marine equipment
sales
is permitted.
Permitted.
But under this business consumer service, I think the equipment rental is referring. I'm deducting that it's referring to more of an office equipment. Based on the other item in the category.
That's kind of what I see too. I can't find anything about equipment rental. Like if it was heavy equipment. Yes, Vivian. Well, I was just gonna say, I think if everybody's in agreement, we could just take that to office equipment and move on. I don't think we have anyone in our business district right now that is leasing, selling, repairing large equipment. And as you said, the fuel and lube at one point or has a whatever for rent, a backhoe or something. But I think we can move on if everybody agrees, just move in there and just say office equipment rental or another word that would maybe a little bit broader. But I think we don't need to stay on this descript for that long. I think it does a good job describing business consumer services.
Does anybody have anything else on that topic? Okay, and then business personal services, I think similar, the conduct of business providing services involving the care of a person or his or her apparel, such as but not limited to dressmaking, tailoring, barbers and beauty, etc. Certainly that seems to line it up with being a business. And so I'm making a note on this other page under the business definition, and maybe that's where we just provide some of those examples of a business being, consumer, personal service. Below that, we have retail business establishments engaged in selling goods or merchandise to the general public. Those seem like those are all self-explanatory businesses, unless there's feedback on that.
I like that idea. I think I understood that in your definition of the commercial business district, you're saying under business, you'll have these bold sections listed. And then in the definition table, you'll have what each of those means by definition.
Well, I was thinking just having it, so maybe even if it's just business on the land use table, then in the definition itself, it could refer to these types of businesses and still keeping those definitions in the code in case it's needed for reference, but it does still simplify the land use table, which I think that's great, part of the goal. Now we have 3 offices on the following page, which seems maybe a little excessive. It's office space directly pertaining to a retail or service business use of the building. The only time I would see that being pertinent, I guess, is if somebody wanted to come in and build or utilize a space just as an office for that retail business, but wouldn't it just be part of the retail business? I don't know. What are you guys' thoughts on it?
I think we also talked about how you have offices.
Yeah.
And we like that that's a service
Yeah.
provided. It's in the district, but it's not in the district.
Yeah.
It depends on if the city decided not to do that, would we want someone else in the commercial business district to have that option? Right now, I think it's secondary on the land use.
Well, could it just all be office? I mean, or a professional, either just pick one of these titles and call it all the same. So I mean,
Yeah, combine them.
yeah.
I think you should combine them.
Agree.
But I think we keep it as secondary. Did we decide on? that?
Why would you keep it as secondary? If it's a business? No, I think it would be I don't think it would be secondary.
Especially if you're combining, because for instance, a professional office, if you have like a dentist's office or a veterinarian office, I mean, wouldn't that be a professional office?
Yes,
Yeah.
would that fall under something else?
No.
Hmm.
Well, it's, and as far as I can see, currently it's listed as secondary for offices under the land use table.
Mhm. So maybe that needs to be addressed.
I would say, yeah, let's find it on the land use form, but if we had somebody who wanted to open up a business, then it happened to be offices, and maybe it was, as we said, a vet or renting out space. To me, in our business district, why would that not comply? Why would that be an issue? I guess is what I'm asking. Do we do something I'm not sure or aware of?
So I think if I was going to assume the reason why it's secondary is it's looking at, if you're saying, if you had a property in the commercial business district and you were utilizing it as a separate office for a business somewhere else,
Right.
then does that count as part of that business that's operating
Right.
wherever else it is? And is that applicable, or is that secondary to where that business is?
So we have a commercial fishing business that's not downtown here.
Mhm.
I could have my rental building become our office for my business for commercial fishing, and it has nothing to do with what's happening in town.
Mhm. Right, right. So in my vision, what I was thinking of, that's a good point to bring up, because I'm not sure if that falls under what I was thinking.
Right.
Yeah, so, yeah, I was thinking actively that people would have a building they want to rent, just like the city does with the old clinic. We rent rooms and that, and people pay to work there. That's more my vision, and that's where we need to make sure our conceptual idea of what a business is makes it clear. So if somebody is going to rent their building to various individuals to have offices, then that's something that we would consider, because they would be full-time doing work in those offices. I'm trying to wrap my head around it, but very good point, Nicola.
I think we would need to find where they could fit on the land use table that would accommodate them. So like you were saying, a dentist's office or a whatever, like that could fall under clinics, and clinics are conditional, permitted. Clinics are permitted.
Mhm.
So depending on the type of office, we might be able to find where they would fall in, that they are already permitted. But if I have a personal home business, but I want to have an office space, I'm not allowed to take my commercial building and turn it into my home office for my other business.
Right, and if it wasn't, now let's turn that around. So if it wasn't you, Nicole, if it was somebody else, it was Jane, whoever came off the street and wanted to rent a room in your building to do just what you were just talking about, then that would be allowable because you're renting that space to a different individual, right?
Think so, because I'm
That's
renting my space.
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
maybe there needs to be wording in there about being owner occupied or home occupation is a secondary use. You still need to have a permitted use, but if you're utilizing the space as a service,
Home
as in
occupation is
your-
secondary use.
yeah,
Mhm.
or maybe like Acola said, we don't need any of these three and they just either need to fall into something else. That would be a home occupation and that would not qualify.
Right.
Whereas a dentist or a vet or some kind of a professional would be under.
So just strike office altogether.
Yeah, we can look at that as we go through and see if there's something we're missing.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's similar to how the accessory structure with the unoccupied lot. We're like, well, if that's not a thing, so it would fall under something else.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so maybe we just strike those out. We'll look at it. And then we move down to commercial recreation and recreation. And I think this may be another one again where one or both of these, well, maybe one is applicable, but we certainly don't need two. But maybe when it comes to some of the other districts, when you talk about like public with parks, we'll have to look at that further. But in relation to the commercial business district, we have commercial recreation, a recreation facility operated as a business and open to the public for a fee, especially for recreational participation such as, but not limited to, arcades, bowling alley, dance club, laser tag, paintball, and skate park. Initial thought on that one is that is a business, and are there recreation businesses that would not be permitted? Does it need to be separated for a reason to further evaluate what type of recreation is happening within the district, or is it just considered a business?
Right, if it's a commercial entity that's trying to do something for profit, wouldn't it fall under something else? I mean, it could still be recreation, but it's a business.
It's just a business, right?
So we I just had that light bulb. One of your land use types will just be business.
I think that's what we were talking about,
Okay,
and just saying that's.
so then that's where the
prohibited.
office could fall under if you're renting out those spaces as an office.
You're in
Or
business.
you're in business because you're leasing your space. This commercial recreation, you're in business because you're trying to make a profit.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think we need to have a subcategory for commercial recreation if it just goes under business. But the recreation, you're not trying to make money. It's a leisurely activity.
Yeah, and I think that might, you have some, there's some public components to that. So I think that one may not be applicable to commercial business district, but it could certainly be applicable to.
Yes, and that's
other parts of the city.
currently conditional.
Yeah.
Did you have something, Vivian?
Did you ask me?
Yeah, I heard you.
I would agree. I'm not sure about this recreational leisure activities actually belonging in what we're talking about. That's all.
Okay.
And then for recreation itself it's a commercial, sorry, not commercial, it's a conditional use right now. Is that still applicable or is it not applicable? I mean, technically those properties should be a business property, and these activities
Yeah, you don't.
are
put
not
it in,
business.
Buy a piece of property and turn it into a park.
So maybe this is just not applicable.
Or the,
Not
this,
The definitions that are there, I'd say no, not applicable.
If you're charging a fee, I mean, it depends on if you're charging a fee or not, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Well,
you're a
then
business.
that's a commercial
I mean,
recreation.
we got one
But if
public-
somebody just buys a piece of property and turns it into a park and puts up a bench, I mean, it's
Well, I get it, but if they're charging a fee, then it's-
a fee to go sit on their bench.
well, yeah.
But then you're a business and you better be paying sales tax.
Right.
Yes. Okay, so then moving down to entertainment uses, same exercise, the use of a building or space to provide amusement or entertainment for spectating, especially by performers such as, but not limited to, an art gallery, comedy club, dance club, museum, music performance, venue, and theater. And initial thought on that one is, I think should, if it's kept in and if it's as part of business, then there should be something included that about, and for a fee or engaging in commerce. I don't know, what are you guys' thought on that?
I would agree, Heidi. I think it needs to relate to a cash flow of some sort in order for it to actually fit in the business district. Something about a fee or money involved with it.
In my notes, when I had been looking through the land use, I had to combine the commercial recreation and the entertainment uses because they are the same across the land use table in all districts.
But now we're gonna take commercial and recreation and just
Yeah,
combine it with business, so do we?
yes.
But I don't see where entertainment use fits in with.
But entertainment use is permitted in the commercial business district. I do agree that it should say for a fee or with the intent of making a profit.
So are we envisioning this as being, that's all that happens in that space? If it's a building or an open space, is this the only thing that happens in it?
No, and we gotta not have those types of thoughts. The district is very mixed use, which means that you can have multiple uses in one building or on one property, and we're not, I don't think we're in the business of saying how many services somebody can provide and on their property, nor saying that you have to operate year round. That's not something that I think the city or the community has ever tried to push on anybody, other than just wanting to see, successful commerce happening in the area. And I'm hearing a lot from this group that really depends on the business owner and the business model. And it's hard to regulate that. I would not.
I'm just envisioning if I have a piece of property down here and I put up a big building and the only thing that I ever have happen there all year is this one music performance.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you could rent it out to like a paintball party or.
That's not what I want
art
to do. though.
gallery,
The only thing I want to do is rent it for this one music performance.
Yeah, which is why, maybe that's why you have to define what it means to be in business. If you're just doing it for a single day activity, then you're not in business.
Unless you're a really poor salesman. That's all you can do.
But that's all I want to do. That's what I'm saying.
Nope.
Do a one night comedy club. That's right. That's all I want to do.
And that's a good point. Like, we could have a building available for use for these purposes and they just don't get used. They're not utilized. People don't want to pay the fee or it doesn't work for that venue doesn't work for what they're trying to accomplish. We're not gonna say, well, close up your space. Right?
I mean, as long as they're actively engaged and participating, which that's gonna be probably the crux at the end of this whole discussion is.
Right.
And it sounds like there needs to be some time limitations on that from what I'm hearing from the group of, what that entails.
Right, if I may, yeah, thinking about people who maybe put up a building and have one event per year, well, that's really not gonna fly. And that's where we need to have our documentation or our documents together to where it lays it out very clearly that that's not something that would work. So that person who said, oh, I want to have this one event a year, or I want to have event once a month, 8 months of the year, 4 months of the year, and they find that does not work for them. They say, well, that was not a very good business plan. Then either sell or you move into the next business plan that you can come up with. But we need to make it clear that people understand that this is a serious undertaking when you are in this area. One, for your own livelihood. Two, because that's what the city is requesting. And three, it's what will benefit the community in the surrounding area. So I think we could probably, I think with guidelines and descripts, we can probably, if somebody wanted to open an art gallery, wonderful. They pay taxes, sales tax when they sell. They're open to the public, and that's exactly what we want. We want people to come here and go someplace and enjoy it. Walk in the doors, look at art, and walk back out and buy something on their way out, in or out. Just my 2 cents.
Okay, anything else on entertainment uses then? We'll look at including that it's for a fee or engaging in commerce or providing a service for a fee.
Yeah.
Engaging in some form of commerce. And then kennel, this is interesting one because you know, there's 2 definitions here, kennel commercial, which would be for a fee or engaging in commerce. And then we have kennel private, which means 4 or more, but as a side note, council, so this used to be in there because there were regulations in code that said an individual that it wasn't permitted to have 4 or more, or there, you know, there was 4 or more wasn't the exact language. I can't remember the exact language. I have to look back, but there were regulations around how many dogs you could have in your home. And that was recently removed. And the discussion with council was, you know, that there was still it was during our dog license conversation, and that there should still be a kennel license, and that's still as applicable for individuals who have a commercial kennel. So if they're boarding or breeding or providing services that are kenneling animals, but maybe not necessarily kennel private. So I would say that I can look further into that one, and potentially kennel private isn't even applicable at all anymore in the code. So if we focus on kennel commercial, unless you guys have any thoughts or feelings on kennel private, means a premises where 4 or more dogs are over 6 months of age are owned, kept, boarded, bred, and or offered for sale. And again, coming back to that, it's for a fee or engaging in some sort of commerce. And does that count as just being a business, or are there stipulations around it because of you know, there's public health, which I think is why a portion of why it's in code previously. There are certainly some humanitarian guidelines around kenneling and boarding dogs.
Noise.
It says here that it's not in the commercial.
Not permitted.
It's not
Correct.
Permitted.
But if it's a kennel commercial and they're trying to make a profit, they would be considered a business. So how do we have permitted
it's-
businesses and not permitted businesses for the district?
I think you would just keep kennel as its own. So you would have a business definition, and then underneath it in definitions, all of those applicable businesses. A business is a business is a business, but then where there are exceptions, and that's really the key there. I think if you are pulling things out and having exceptions, there needs to be justification behind it. For instance, marijuana, there's justifications behind that one because it has further permitting and regulations. Kennel, I think there can be justification behind that because there are further requirements, both, you know, animal and humane requirements for running a kennel.
So is it in industrial, where is it approved for now?
To have a kennel?
Conditional,
It's conditional in
In-
almost every, or no, or conditional
yeah.
in all of the categories.
Okay. Yeah, cause it seems to me maybe industrial or somewhere else, but
They have to get a
you know, if you,
Is operating a pet store, does that fit into one of these categories?
Not
Consumer
current.
services,
Well, I guess it would be a
Retail.
retail business, so you could have a few little puppy dogs if you had.
Personal services.
If you had under 4, maybe,
Yes, okay.
if you were.
Well, I
boarding.
think that's what she's saying is there's no set number anymore, right? Because
Well, it is for the commercial. Kennel commercials 4 or more.
And they do have an age of the dog too, so maybe pet stores are generally young dogs. Whereas the kennels are 6 months or older.
Yeah.
Kennels should be paying for the care of your, someone else's dog. Like a pet store, they're available for purchase, so it's kind of.
I don't know if a lot of places do that anymore. Have like pet stores where they have the live pet
Oh, they do.
for dogs and cats.
Yeah.
Well, I know they do for other animals.
No, there's still.
Always going in at that store
Yeah.
and find cats and dogs in there.
Yep.
Mhm.
Gerbils,
Yeah,
lizards.
we were looking for fish
Like-
over Christmas and we went into two and yeah, I was like, oh, look at the cats.
Where would doggy daycare?
Yeah.
Maybe we should just leave it as a no
Yeah,
and it doesn't affect 18. Let someone else worry about it.
Right?
keep it separate. Okay.
I mean, it seems to me like it could really disturb the business,
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah, I don't see it fitting in to Soldovia's commercial business district. I
Yeah,
don't see it
I mean,
fitting
you-
in to have a bunch of barking dogs yipping on Main Street.
Well, just the cleanup, the smell,
Mhm.
so many things there that you don't want to move next to another business and just completely, it just seemed to me like if it's a no,
Yeah,
then they're not involved in
Every dog
18.
kennel that I've ever had used in the past is outside the city limits or and it's in the industrial area. I've never taken my dogs to a kennel that was in, next to,
Mhm.
Supermart or something like that. So they're always in some other outside area because it is kind of,
yeah. And we do have a kennel license, so let's just keep it separate. 'Cause then that kennel license provides further
Perfect.
involvement for that type of business, so we can leave it,
I presume that's why it's conditional in the other, it's
Yeah.
conditional on the license.
yeah, and then it's not permitted in commercial business. So if you move down to equipment sales, repairs and service, the use of any building or structure and associated premises on which a business, service or industry involving the maintenance, servicing, repair, painting, or for the display and sale of heavy equipment or tangible property that is used in the operation of a business, devices, machines, tools, and vehicles. And I think this is one that we touched on earlier. We keep getting hung up because you can have a wide range, a wide scope of what an equipment sale is. So if you guys have some immediate ideas, we can discuss it. Otherwise, this may be one that myself and Clerk Diamond have to do a little research on how we can provide a better scope.
I would be in favor of you taking it back and working with it. I don't think anybody really wants in our business district equipment sales, repairs and services necessarily in our downtown area. There's other areas that can be done there. So I would appreciate if you reworked it and brought it back.
What if it was like a computer repair shop?
Right.
I don't think,
And then-
I don't think it falls under the heavy equipment definition.
Yeah.
And
So
the harbor's not in the commercial business district, correct? Because they have to repair the boats downtown.
The
That's not in
boat repair is limited. It's a separate category.
Yeah, doesn't say it pertains to office equipment. It says heavy equipment.
Or tangible property.
Yeah.
I think I should be able to park the D8 there.
And repair it?
Go
So-
for it.
Yeah, it's a no anyway on that.
We do have,
So,
Right.
we do have business and services and consumer services. So if it's a consumer service of repairing a computer, I think it would fall under that category.
right.
And then this would just be heavy equipment. So it'd be separate for heavy equipment, but any other smaller equipment would be,
Well, but what
applicable.
Walter's saying is it's a no in the commercial business district anyways.
But it is a business,
mhm.
so it would be its own category.
you know, the only way it might fly is if someone had a little office and they rented small stuff, but had their equipment yard somewhere else and
Right.
might rent it here and you go pick it up.
That's where an office. would
Or
be.
or retail, that would have to be the retail space.
The rental yard, but
Okay. So I think we could just add heavy to equipment and make sure it's applicable for, that's what we're talking about, heavy or large scale equipment.
I.e. excavators, dump trucks, backhoe.
What is that kind of equipment called besides heavy? What is it?
pardon?
What would that kind of equipment be called besides heavy
What kind of
equipment?
I
Truck or, loaders, dump trucks, things
Diesel
like.
machinery.
That's all you call it.
Yeah.
So what about small equipment in the business district, like lawnmowers,
Yeah,
generators?
Yeah,
Are those okay to be in the business district?
That might fall under consumer services.
Yeah, I mean, they did, the trading post
Seems
did
to me
rent
like
out
that's
equipment like
permitted.
that in the
I-
past,
I
so.
had to look it up.
So
Seemed like
that could be okay in our central business district because they're small, and they're not taking up.
That would be more under tools and
Yeah.
small.
Small equipment.
Yeah, so maybe this is heavy or large scale
Ooh.
equipment and we kind of define what that is.
Definition, heavy equipment, heavy machinery, earth movers, construction vehicles. Like, I like that.
Earth mover. No earth movers downtown.
I could see your boys being like, yeah, let's call it that.
Yeah. I need to make shirts.
Yeah.
Pretty good definition, we all understand. I guess what I'm hearing the consensus is that the equipment sales of smaller items is something that we kind of want to allow within that commercial.
I
business.
think it would fall under a different category.
Okay, but the intent is to allow that stuff.
Maybe just to clarify, maybe just put heavy on this in front of equipment on the title. Did we say that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is in parentheses on the land use
Yeah,
as heavy equipment.
Mm.
so we can just better define that. And then we go down to freight storage and staging for transportation. This is something that is. Let's see if I'm looking for transportation. Except for flammable, we have two definitions in there. I'm sorry, they weren't copied over fully into the packet, but there's freight storage and staging for transportation except for flammable, explosive, or corrosive materials not for use on site. And then there's freight storage and staging for transportation of flammable, explosive, or corrosive materials. And that is not applicable across the entire code except for conditional use and industrial. And I'm guessing that is there for a reason, a historical reason. So I think we're focusing on freight storage and staging for transportation, except for the flammable, explosive, or corrosive materials not for use on the site. This is something that occurs in several areas across town. Initial thought is if it's storage and staging, it's not being in business or active business, right? It's potentially for a business, but, should it be kept separate? Seems like it's like a secondary use to a business potential,
Right.
So maybe it's
So keep it as its own definition.
Mhm.
or something.
I don't know if I know the difference between freight storage and warehouse. Like, isn't that wouldn't you store your freight in a warehouse?
I think this is for transportation. So if you're bringing things on and off the ferry, if you're bringing things on and off an airplane, on and off a boat, you've got crab pots you're moving in and out, you have pallets of material coming in and out, and you're just temporarily storing it or staging it to move.
So what's your question?
Is it okay to just leave it the way it is?
I think so.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And then moving, because we don't have to include it as business, is what I'm saying. Okay, then moving down to garage, commercial. This is any garage other than a residential garage for commercial use operated for gain. It's It's a great term right there. And which is used for storage, repair, rental, greasing, washing, servicing, adjusting, or equipping of automobiles or other vehicles. So maybe this is more, that's the smaller scale, or is that still larger than small equipment like owners, lawn mowers, generators, computer repair shop? It doesn't still need to be its own entity.
Well, you could have a garage for, I mean, it says operated for gain, so it's a
Commercial.
business.
Mhm.
Do we want it on Main Street?
Don't
Wouldn't it
want
be-
Main
yeah.
Street.
Wouldn't this be more like in our industrial area?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So keep it separate.
Yeah.
So that would be like a tire shop or Jiffy Oil Change or.
Now, I have a question.
Like an
and
auto repair shop.
Kind of a side. When we purchased a property in waterfront commercial residential, I was told you can do just about anything down here, but you can't have like a garage, like you're not supposed to work on cars on this. And on here, it says that waterfront commercial residential, it is permitted. So maybe I was just told wrong, but do we want that on our waterfront? Like,
The garage commercial,
yeah,
maybe not, especially if you're allowing smaller type repair shops and things on commercial. Maybe motor vehicles is where you hit the threshold.
When you start like changing oil and there's gas and stuff like that, that gets into the ground or water table. It couldn't,
yeah.
I mean, you're supposed to be careful, but
We see enough oil
It's
slicks in the harbor.
yeah, it's gonna go in there eventually.
Not if you follow the rules. It won't.
Well,
No,
Yes.
nobody ever has accidents.
So right now it's commercial, it's conditional use. So do you want it to stay conditional use? If somebody brings an application and fills out the paperwork and has a public hearing, it could be allowed or just
Yeah,
not
because you
permitted?
know, they might have a different type of commercial garage that would work.
Okay,
Agreed.
This is not in the CV district.
No,
yeah,
this
it's
is-
conditional use, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just doing a side note and asking the permitted in the waterfront commercial residential.
Yeah. And then we have, I'm sorry, is there more on that one? Then we have garage residential. And this is another one of those that, I mean, does it fall under accessory use? I wanted to look back at that, and it may just be that
I think so.
it's not applicable, and I can,
I don't see it on the land use table.
I don't need that.
no, it's just, yeah. I'm gonna say probably not applicable.
Yeah, I would assume it's just an accessory structure.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think it's just defining the difference between a commercial and a residential garage.
Don't we have some buildings now that have attached garages?
Yeah, and that's fine. Okay. It's really helping us clean some things up. Gas manufacturer storage. This one is a little bit more regulated as well, just because of the nature of gas manufacturer and storage. Currently, let's see if we look at the code. It is
Not,
not permitted, and this refers to as a public utility and approved fuel storage. So it is permitted in commercial and industrial, as well as airport. So thinking if you have just like a fuel tank or, you are storing fuel, manufacturing fuel, seems like that should remain separate. Unless anybody has something else.
Keep it separate.
um. So if we had a lawnmower repair shop and weed whackers and whatnot, they would not be able to sell 2-cycle? Correct, like they wouldn't be able to,
I don't think that falls under any of these.
No, it's.
Gas manufacturer storage.
The surface of use
Okay.
of lands used in the production, mechanical transformation or chemical transformation, of hydrocarbon gas. Hydrocarbon gas and includes use for gas conditioning, compressor stations, storage means surface. Uses necessary for storage of produced or non-native natural gas. To me, this means like large volume storage and sale.
Okay.
You go ahead and sell your 2-cycle.
maybe.
Okay, so we'll keep that separate. Then moving down to gas station. Also, let's see here, not permitted, so maybe that stays, that's keep separate as well. Because it is permitted. Actually, it's a conditional use only in, which that's funny that that's an aside for, maybe not for this group, that it's a conditional use for commercial and industrial, but storage is not, so. We'll look into that further. That'll be a good conversation to have with you. Sorry, Vivian, I'm just making notes here.
Okay.
Vivian, did you have anything on the gas station topic?
Nope, nope. I'm
Okay.
in favor of whatever's being discussed. Thanks.
Okay, so then we have junkyard, any space 100 square feet or more of any lot or parcel of land used for the storage, keeping, or abandonment of junk or waste material, including scrap metals or other scrap materials, or for dismantling, demolition, or abandonment of automobiles, other vehicles, machinery, or any parts thereof. That does not sound like necessarily a business to me, or if it is a business, perhaps should be evaluated. And let's see here, it looks like it is permitted in commercial and industrial, and it's not permitted across the rest of the board, so. Keep the same for everybody.
I think we should permit it, though.
Like, I think
There's
there are,
plenty of junkyards that are a business. I mean.
and that's what I was gonna say, I think that there are some profitable junkyards out there.
Oh, sure.
But, and you said it is permitted in?
Commercial or
It is
industrial?
Yeah,
not
commercial
in
and
commercial business.
industrial.
Commercial and industrial is permitted. No, not anywhere else.
It's not permitted in 18.
In commercial business, no, this is all 18. And then so lumber yard, same thing, permitted in commercial and industrial, not permitted anywhere else. Anybody see any reason why it should be included in general business or commercial business district?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. Rest of these may be easy because there are more industrial type businesses. Manufacturing, fabricating, assembly, the mechanical or chemical transformation of materials or substances into new products, including assembly of component parts, the manufacturing of products, and the blending of materials such as lubricating oils, plastics, resins, or liquors. Dawn had a good point at a previous meeting about this, again, going back to scale, economy of scale. And if she's doing resin art and manufacturing things, is that permittable versus larger scale manufacturing? So we could look at defining that better. Or
Right now it's conditional. So
Didn't we kind of decide that the gentleman in the little kiosk down there is in that
Mhm.
he's
category
manufacturing.
already?
Yeah,
But isn't it also a retail space?
exactly.
maybe it should be measured by scale.
Mhm. Okay, and then we move, if there's nothing else on that one, to marine equipment, sales, service, repair, construction, and storage, and this is permitted across a large percentage of the municipality except for residential, residential special, multifamily, airport, and public. It seems like this has been a long-standing operation that's been supported by the community with our commercial fishing and being near the water. So love to hear what you guys, if you have any feedback on that or any changes, but currently marine equipment, sales, service, repair, construction, and storage is permitted downtown and along most of the waterfront.
Yeah, I think we should leave it.
If I may, I think the hopes have always been that a marine equipment sales and service would happen and repair would happen in our business district. I think it should be allowable, but it also maybe should be conditional, so the discussion and the business plan can be moved forward to the city to know exactly what they were, the business owner was promoting, and if whether or not the area of the lot that they were promoting this would be offensive to their neighbors or to the area. It's something that, you know, everybody would love to see come to Sylvania. For years that's been it. Would it be better in the industrial area down by the old cannery? Absolutely. But is there a way of making it conditional and still have it allowable for a business district?
I have a question then, because I mean, we've assumed ownership of the fuel station and we've always just applied for a new business license. So if I was a new business in town and I bought a property down here, do I, with my application for a business license, submit a business plan?
No. No. But if you were trying to operate that sort of business and we saw that on a business license, then you would have to have a conditional use, which would be similar to a business plan and saying, this is the reasons why I want to operate where I'm operating. And these are the qualifications. It's permitted now, but if you wanted to have that information, then you could make it be a conditional. The advantage, there's a few advantages. You don't want everything to be conditional. I get what Dom is saying. There are a few advantages to having a land use type being conditional. Big one being that it provides opportunity for public hearing and public input. And secondly, then it does have a little bit more oversight with meeting different regulations and requirements through the state, through the borough, through the municipality.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's definitely not a term that should go away.
I don't remember exactly all of the questions that are on the city's application for the business license, but there's usually a doing business as, and then what the number is by the state and what you fall under for the type of business that you have. And I think then that's where they would be able to address the type of business it is and whether they permit that license in this city.
Or in that district, because it also asks what district you're in. So we can verify through there that that's applicable. Because the city did remove business license for 1 year and then brought it back when they realized that having the business license, it wasn't worth having just a piece of paper, but utilizing it to have those checks and balances to say, yes, they're registered. Yes, they have a professional license. They have a business license through the state. They're meeting all of those things to be an active business within the community, has seemed to have benefit, within the city. And that's,
And I think for me, so for an example, just starting this business, it was beneficial to have the city's requirement for the business license because they asked questions that I didn't even know I needed to know. So what's your borough tax ID? I need a borough tax ID. Okay, get online and figure that out. I didn't have that with fishing. So I didn't know that that was, I didn't know. So it helped me figure out things I needed to do.
so then going back to